Hey everyone, with Season 2 coming out in less than a couple weeks, I figured I'd put a quick video of showing what gear I'll be running in Season 2, as well as what I'm going to be trying to prioritize early on. I'll quickly go over some of the options for each slot and cover gems and enchants at the end. With that out of the way, we'll get right into it. First up, we got the helmet slot, which is going to be the T5 Cowl of the Avatar, which drops from Lady Bash and SSE. It's going to be the best stat weighted helmet for Priest in Phase 2. It's got a lot of stam, a lot of int, a lot of spirit, a lot of MP5, and a lot of healing. Unfortunately, it is the Warrior Druid Priest token, which means it'll have a lot of competition early on. So most likely at first, I'll be running the Power Heal 4000 lens, which comes out in Phase 2 for Engineering. It's got fairly comparable stats to the T5 helmet. A little bit less stamina, which is going to hurt, and a little bit less healing, and a little bit less MP5 overall, but fairly comparable. It also gives slight increase to stealth detection, which may help against rogues in 2s or 3s, but it's not going to be anything game-breaking. The third option up would probably be the Mooncloth Hood. Unfortunately, the Gladiator stuff does not have very good stat weighting for priests in the helmet slot. It's got a lot of stam, a lot of resilience, but a lack of healing and no MP5. So usually you're going to be running either the Power Heal 4000 T5 or some other helmet. Second up, we got the necklace slot, which our main piece is going to be the new PvP healing jewelry that comes out in Phase 2. So we no longer need to run caster necks as a priest, so we can run the healing neck, which gives us healing, MP5, resilience, stamina, and intellect, as well as a spell hit gem in the socket. The only other option I'll be running in early on will be in 2s and 3s. I'll be running the Pendant of the Lost Ages, which reduces the duration of any silence or interrupt effects against the user by 20%. This will come in handy against rogues and locks in 2s and 3s. Garrote, Counterspell, and Spelllock, reduced by 20%, can probably save the game. So in 2s and 3s I'll be running that, but mainly you'll be running the Veteran's Pendant of Salvation. In the shoulder slot, we don't really have any options here. It's going to be one of the Gladiator shoulders. You'll either be running 4-piece or you could run 2-piece, 2-piece if you wanted to run some extra resilience. In Phase 2, I don't think we'll need the extra resilience as a priest, and the extra healing and the power word shield reduction by 2% for weakened soul is probably going to outscale anything you get from the extra resilience. So that'll be our only option in the shoulder slot or the satin if you do decide to run 2-piece, 2-piece. Next up, we got another PvE piece, which is going to be the Sunshower Light Cloak, which drops off of Prince Kael'thas and TK. It's a fairly minor upgrade from the Prince Cloak in Karazhan, which I was running before, so this is going to be a little bit lower on my priority list, but it does have the extra healing and a little bit of extra MP5, especially out of combat. So I will be looking to get that eventually. Next up, we got the chest, which is going to be the Gladiator's Mooncloth Robe. One of the only pieces with MP5 for priest, so this one's always going to be what you're running. If you're running 2-piece, 2-piece, you'd be running the Mooncloth Robe and the Mooncloth Leggings. Next up, another piece that there's not really any other option for. The offset pieces have a really, really good stat weighting, so a lot of healing, really good res, a lot of stamina, a lot of int. Lack of regen again, but we try to make up for that in other places as well as the socket. So next up we got the gloves. Again, if you're running 2-piece, 2-piece, this would be the satin gloves, but I think 4-piece is going to be what we're going to be running in Phase 2. So I've got the Merciless Gladiator's Mooncloth here. For the belt, we will have a few options. Mainly, you'd have the offset piece, the Veteran's Mooncloth belt, because it has very, very good healing, a lot of res, a lot of stam, and a lot of int. Again, lack of regen, but we try to make up for that in other places. The other couple options we'd have is possibly if you wanted to run extra regen, is the Belt of the Long Road. Has a lack of stamina, but 2 sockets to make up for that, a lot of healing, and a lot of spirit. So if you can fit that in and keep your res fairly high, you could run that as well. In 2s and 3s, I'm going to be running the NG Belt, which is the 9 vulnerability, which gives you a 4000 absorb shield. So if you ever get bursted by 2 people trying to DPS you, it's always going to come in handy. So in 2s and 3s, I'll be running that. Next up again, the leggings pretty much doesn't change no matter what. If you're running 2-piece, 2-piece, you're still running this. It's one of the only priest pieces that has MP5 on it, so you got big res, big healing, and MP5. For the boot slot, we're going to have a few options. The best in slot is going to be the Soul Strider boots, which drop from Fathom Lord Caratharas in SSE. It's got 2 sockets, as well as big healing, stam, big spirit. So that's going to be the best option you have early on. If you're a tailor, there's going to be a fairly comparable boots called Boots of the Long Road. They're a bind-on pickup recipe from SSC and TK. They have fairly comparable stats to the Soul Strider boots, so if you are able to acquire them early on, this is going to be a great option. Unfortunately, I'm not a tailor, so I won't be running these. The only other option early on I think you could run would be the Veteran's Moonclaw Slippers, which will give you big res, big healing, and stamina int. Unfortunately, again, no regen, so this is one of the slots that I think that if we can socket regen into, we will want to. For rings, again, we get some healing jewelry in phase 2. So the Veteran's Band of Salvation is going to be best in slot. You have healing, res, MP5, stamina int, so that one won't be replaced by anything. In the second slot, we have Band of the Vigilant. This drops from Mogrim, Tidewalker, and SSC, so he's a pretty big boss from us dropping a lot of pieces. As a stam, res, spell crit, which is okay for priests, not game breaking, and big healing. So that'll be the piece I'll probably run at first. In this slot, there will be a couple other options you could run. If you have enough res, you could run the Lady Bash ring, which has a lot of stam, spirit, and int, as well as more healing than the other rings. The only other option I'd probably take a look at would be the caster ring, the Veteran's Band of Dominance, as the res, damage, and healing is fairly comparable, as well as adding a little bit of spell penetration if you're having a lot of resist. For trinkets, we're going to be running, of course, Medallion of the Horde. And then for our other option, again, this one's not really replaceable by anything else. It's the Earring of Soulful Meditation, which drops from the Lurker below in SSC. Has a big healing value, as well as the on-use 300 Spirit, which is big regen, especially if you can get into your MP5 cycle during that time. Until I get this, I'll still probably be running Bangle of the Endless Blessings from Season 1, but this is definitely the best option for Trinket. Lastly, we'll go into the weapons, which I'll be running the Merciless Gladiator's Touch of Defeat, making up for some of the res because we're running a lot of regen pieces. Unfortunately, there isn't a healing wand, so we're only getting the damage, and healing is fairly low. The only other option I'd probably look at is for maybe a regen set, or if you get enough resilience in other areas, would be the Luminescence Rod of the Naru, which drops from Mogrim Tidewalker, again, dropping a lot of priest pieces that we need this expansion. So I'd use that for a regen set, or if you have enough resilience, but other than that, I'd keep with the Merciless Gladiators. For the weapons, we will have a few slots that we could use. Mainly, it's going to be the Light Fathom Scepter, which drops from Lady Bash and SSC. Again, 25 nans and a lot of competition, so you might not be able to get it early on. But it will save us 3,000 arena points if we can acquire it before trying to go for the Merciless Gladiator's Salvation. Which if I had the Light Fathom Scepter, I'd probably use Light Fathom over it, but it is a good option to have for a tanking set if you know you're going to be taking a lot of damage without getting a lot of healing out. This would be a good option. The third option we're going to have is the Ethereum Life Staff, which drops from High Astromancer Solaris and TK. This will be slightly less desirable than the Light Fathom Scepter, but it has a lot of spirit, a lot of intellect, and a lot of stamina, so it's a very, very good option if you can get it early on, as well as being the best option for your regen set if you wanted to enchant it with a spirit enchant. I will be replacing Night Staff of the Ever-Living with that at some point. For the offhand, there isn't very good upgrades from phase 2, so we're going to be going with the Merciless Gladiators offhand. If you wanted to run a regen offhand, you could try the Talisman of the Sun King, which drops from TK. Unfortunately, it has fairly similar stat weightings and not very much MP5, so I think the Merciless Gladiators is going to be pretty much the only offhand you'll want to run. That pretty much covers the gear, so we'll quickly go over Enchants and Gems. Most of these are staying the same from Season 1, so if you're running anything, it's not really going to change. We got the Thrallmar enchant for the helmet, plus healing, plus MP5. The Aldor Scryer shoulder enchant, which will give you healing and MP5. Spell penetration on our cloak, resilience on the chest, healing and spell damage on the bracers, and of course, plus healing on the weapon. If you have a regen offset, you can enchant it with spirit. On the gloves, we have spell hit, which with some of our sockets, which I'll show after this, we're running 3 spell hit gems, which will give us 3% spell hit and cap us on spell hit for PvP. Golden spell thread on the leggings, just big healing, big stamina. On the boots, we have Boar Speed, which is minor speed and stamina. We have no mobility as a priest in TBC, so having a little bit of speed increase is always good. Yeah, pretty much your only chance of getting away from anything is just walking away from it, so a little bit faster always helps. Profession-wise, the best professions in Season 2 are going to be Engineering and Enchanting for Priest, so you get the plus 20 healing enchant on your rings, and the Engi Helmet and Engi Belt as well. For gems, it's pretty simple. The meta gem we're going to be running is the Powerful Earthstorm, which is going to give us 18 stam and 5% stun resistance. The stun resistance is just going to come in handy against resisting kidneys or any other stun. If you can ever get it, it's going to be big, so that's going to be the best gem I think to run. For yellow slots, we're going to be running either the Resilience Gems or one of our 3 spell hit gems to get spell hit cap. And the other slots for red and blue, we'll be running Purified Shadow Pearls, which are healing and spirit gems. In the boots, I do have a couple of the heroic gems, one of which is the Durable Fire Opal, which is healing and resilience, which drops from Heroic Archdraz. If you can acquire this, it's a good option. It's the only way to get healing and resilience on a gem in TBC. And in the other slot kit, I have Imperial Tanzanite, which is just a slightly better version of the Purified Shadow Pearl. That should pretty much cover everything. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching the video. I hope that helped you out. If you want more of these types of videos, let me know. And if you like the content, drop a like and sub, and don't forget to check out my Twitch. Have a good one, and I'll see you guys in Season 2.